Let's talk about the Peace Council's campaign now, talking about Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019, Act 999. My guest is Mr. George Amoah, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Good morning.
Before we talk about this campaign, though, let's clarify a few issues. Yeah. Some people say you've been too quiet. In the past, you were more out there condemning things that are supposed to be condemned, but these days you're rather too quiet.
Thank you, and let me say good morning to our cherished viewers and listeners. I do not agree with that assertion. This is the opinion that some people have. We've tried time and again to let people know that this is not the fact on the ground. If you should log on to Google to see what the Peace Council has been doing, all over the years, you realize that the Peace Council is even louder now than before. We have never kept quiet when we have to. I think I should quickly also add maybe that the Peace Council has a mandate, and we want to respect the mandate as much as we can. So over the years since the Peace Council was established, in the form of a policy framework in 2006, and when it was backed by an Act of Parliament in 2011, the Peace Council has always stood up to the test of the time.
What's the strategy? So, for instance, if there is a comment deemed ethnocentric, for instance, does the Peace is it part of your duty to come out and issue a statement and condemn if there's violence, for instance? Do you make comments on individual issues?
Yeah, thank you once again. You see, the Peace Council, per the act that established us, Act 818, we are expected to facilitate and develop the mechanisms to prevent, to manage, and to resolve conflicts. So if you look at the mandate of the Peace Council as it is, we have not been assigned responsibilities to condemn or to make judgments on people's comments or people's actions. But if you should look at peace in a broader context, then wherever it is necessary that we can make a comment that would seek to prevent conflict or prevent tension from escalation, then we can come in. And I think we've been doing that quite often. From time to time, if people had watched the voters registration period, we issued 3 statements. One, I think, in the second week of the exercise, the second in the middle of the exercise, the last a week after the exercise. And we have not shied away at all. The chairman of the Peace Council, Most Reverend Professor Sante, most of the time I've been speaking to you, multimedia, and other stations around, to make commentaries on matters that are of national interest. So we haven't, slept on.
But you know where the comparison is coming from, right? People compare the period of the previous administration and now, and the perception is it's either you are more friendly to this administration, and so you hardly make comments of condemnation when issues happen. But you clearly disagree.
Yes, the views of people, I cannot contest here, but they should bring the facts to support this. I'm not sure that is the situation.
Let's pay attention to the Vigilantism law. This is a law that is in action, if you like. It would bite if you go against it. What do you want to tell the people about this law?
Thank you very much. I think the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019, Act 999, has come to increase the frontiers of let me put in quote, the fight against violence in our electoral arrangements. One, this act was subjected to a lot of public discussions somewhere last year after the Ayawaso West Wagon unfortunate incident. And since then, inputs were forwarded. We in the Peace Council, civil society groups made a lot of input into the bill before it was passed into an act. So generally, it is a response to a social problem, that we needed to deal with. And since it was passed somewhere last year, we have been, focusing on letting people know what is it that is in the law. That we all must be careful so that we don't, flout and fall foul of the law. Let me quickly say, it's not a big, the provisions are not too many, but it has raised the issue of vigilantism, which hitherto was a misdemeanor to a second-degree felony, which means that the penalties that go, with breaking offenses regarding matters like vigilante activities, have been raised. Hitherto, you may spend some 6 months or maximum 2 years in jail or in prison custody. Now, it's been raised to no less than 10 years. So one can suffer for either supporting, financing, or forming vigilante groupings. If you do that, the penalties are higher, and you can lose your friends and your relations for no less than 10 years.
I wonder why the Peace Council is on this mission, considering the political parties have given us the assurances. The main political parties have said that they've disbanded their groups. They don't have such groupings. And you made them sign a piece of document. Yeah. They've all pledged peace in this year's election.
Yes, they did. And that is very beautiful for our democracy. And we continue to commend them for moving our peace frontiers forward, by signing the vigilantism roadmap. But, Mavi, we have been going down since last month. The Peace Council has embarked upon a nationwide campaign to sensitize the people of Ghana about the provisions therein in the Act. And even within the political leadership, I can assure you that not all of them are aware about the individual provisions in Act 999. Therefore, we have a responsibility as a peace institution, to drum home what is inside there so that people will be watchful, so that they don't do what the law says they should not do. So that is the campaign we've embarked upon. We think it is very important. We have already been to 20 constituencies across the country. We've been to all the regional capitals now. This week we are embarking on the trips again to ensure that before we reach December 7th, we would have gone to almost every part of the 275 constituencies to let the political structures know what is there, especially the rank and file. 2, to let our security agencies, partner, with us to ensure that we get this law fully implemented.
Okay.
Yes, and to get to civil society also to buy in.
What is your fear, and what are you hoping to instill in the people with your education? Are you trying to get them to be afraid of the consequences if they breach the law?
Not to be afraid. People can't. But you see, we have a responsibility to open up what is in the law so that people will make right choices. We believe as a peace institution that it pays to use non-violent methods in resolving conflicts than using the violent method. Violence will not resolve a violent behavior. That is why we have been given a mandate And our mandate, we do not use litigation to resolve conflicts. We try to use nonviolent methods, some of which include dialogue. Let us sit down and talk. Somewhere up to the 2016 elections, maybe, there were two colleagues who were insulting each other on radio in Kumasi. The Peace Council embarked upon a similar, exercise, and the two eventually were present in our meeting. And they didn't know each other, but that day they got to know that this is the person who had been insulting me from time to time at party. They resolved their matter there and then, which was very significant to us. So we believe that if you dialogue, if you bring people together to engage more and more and to talk, it does a lot of work.
Have you seen government's commitment, though, towards the roadmap to peace?
Yeah, I think so far I can say yes. Government really supported the Peace Council in the exercise that we conducted last year. Government, through the national security, really supported the Peace Council. And Minister Ambrizeri has been very supportive. So from the angle of government, our ministries, they've been very, very, very supportive. And the parties themselves have been very supportive, both the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party have been very supportive of this exercise. So I think it looks good. We have to, this is not an event that you seek to get results in a day. It doesn't work that way. Peace is a process. We build day after day. And we hope that we've started well, and if we keep our eyes on the ball and to ensure that we get the best for our country, Ghana, and especially our children who are coming after us, I'm sure that we are going to get this country better than we met it, when we came. I
know you have a monitoring committee, but I also do appreciate that vigilantism doesn't just happen. There's always a source. So are we tackling in as much as we're saying, oh, the act alone disbands such groupings, so that if you have a group like that, it means that you're committing an offense, which is punishable by law. But are we seeking to also eradicate the root cause of vigilantism?
Yes, thank you. I think this is a very important question for me. You see, the act is dealing with the legalities of vigilantism, the criminalities. If you break it, what happens? The roadmap is dealing with the soft parts, which I think interests you. What the roadmap has sought to do is to develop a program that from the short to the long term is going to deal holistically with the issue of vigilante in the country. So, for example, we have identified some of the drivers as the youth bulge or the unemployment situation that we find ourselves in. How do we deal with them? If, for example, we have most of our youth who are engaged in these activities have something gainful, to engage themselves, they are unlikely, to lend their support to any political activist that would want their service. So the roadmap provides 3 phases. Phase 1 deals with where the political parties themselves and some of us, including you, the media, can conscientize people that this is not good, avoid it. Let us use non-violent ways. If you form, this will happen to you. If you finance, this will happen to you. But the phase 2 and the phase 3 deals with the programmatic part of it. Let us build capacity. Let us get more of our youth with skills, relevant skills, so that they can be employable. Let us get jobs for them. Let us deepen inclusiveness and participation in our political system. Let us not leave anybody out. When we do that, then we are increasing inclusiveness, and when people feel they are part of a process, they hardly destroy that same process.
So is that yielding fruits?
Yeah, it's too early in the day. We haven't done any assessment or evaluation to, but I think it's getting well. Peace building is not an easy task at all, but to get the two main political parties to sign on to an important process like the dialogue, and to also get them commit themselves, to disbanding and etc. And now they've opened their doors. We are able to go to all the regional, offices, engage with their chairmen and leaders. I think it's a good way to start. We may not have a total result or outcome now or in this even elections, but going forward, I'm very hopeful that if we're able to implement the provisions in the Act as well as in the roadmap and the code of conduct, we are surely going to get the results in the very near future. Okay,
so finally, let's talk about the monitoring committee. Yeah. What's their work exactly and what are they doing now?
Yes, the monitoring committee is expected to monitor implementations of the code of conduct. As part of the roadmap, we developed a code of conduct, which has a 10-point provision. Then it has an enforcement, some 6-point enforcement mechanisms. So what we intend the monitoring committee to do is to follow up on the provisions to see whether or not the political parties are doing what they've pledged to do.
Okay.
Yes. So exactly that is what the monitoring committee.
Would you tell us if they are not?
Why not? We would the committee wouldn't shy away. We've had our first and second meetings. We've written to the NDC and the NPP to provide us with any complaint that they have. If they have concerns, bring them to us.
Okay, have they?
We haven't received any one yet. Yes. So the committee is going to be, strengthened to do its work. And the beauty of this committee is that it has civil society, as the composition, mainly composing the committee. So we expect that we should have results. If anybody should bring any complaint to the attention of the committee, I can assure you, I will deal with it.
Okay. So, just before we wrap up, though, at what point do you issue public statements?
Well, we are very interested in this. The board decides whether a statement warrants a response from the Peace Council or not. So until the board had consulted and taken a position on the matter, I am just a scribe to the board. So that is how we do it.
Okay, my question was just to help so that we can all appreciate the work of the National Peace Council, because not long ago, one of my colleagues, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, encountered one of the members who was unhappy with some of the comments that people make, and was essentially saying some of the things that you've also essentially reiterated here on the show, that we don't just wake up and make comments, but we have a mandate, and it's because people don't understand our work. That's why sometimes they have all these expectations of us.
It would be very, very dangerous for the Peace Council to make a statement that turns out to be false. Can you imagine that? Where a peace institution that is supposed to be a neutral make a comment that is not verified. It will not be helpful at all. And we believe that what holds the Peace Council, it is neutrality, the fairness that it can master. So we have to jealously guard these qualities. So people should understand that the Peace Council is not a court of law where we make judgments. No, we don't have to do that. We are mediators. Mediators or negotiators or whatever you call us, we have to, as much as possible, stand in the middle and ensure we bring up an outcome that is win-win to both parties.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for helping us understand your work. Thank you also for the education you bring on the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act 2019. And we wish you the very best, with your campaign.
Thank you. And remember let's just link together and, create more awareness ahead of the December elections.
Absolutely.
We are very grateful for the partnership.
Okay. All right, and that's the Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council, Mr. George Amu. When we come back, the National Science and Maths Quiz starts tomorrow. What's on the table? We're discussing that up next.